Is November 26, 1994. We're talking to my mother, Pearl Goldin, and we're going to be starting a number of chats about their family life and times over the next few years. And today we're just going to talk to Mom about her family. And I guess you were explaining to me the other day, Mom, that you found out where your father came from. And can you tell me what you found out?
Well, a elderly cousin in New York told my sister Millie that my father came from a town called Potiche or something like that. At one time it was, I always thought my father came from Austria-Hungary, which it was around World War I. And then it became, after World War I, it became part of Poland. Mm-hmm. And then after World War II, when it was divided, it became part of Russia, USSR, in the Ukraine. So now it's located in the Ukraine. And as a matter of fact, the family in New York, when my father came over, used to call him the Polish duck, because I think there's a certain kind of duck that comes from there, or they used to eat, because my sister's mother-in-law also came from Poland, a different part, but she used to go shopping in Detroit to Hamtramck, which was the Polish section, to get these special Polish ducks. And as a nickname, I used to kid my father that he was a Polish duck.
Okay. And this was Louis Schechter, and he came over when he was 16.
I think he came over in 1907, so I have to figure it out mathematically. But he was a very young man. And he lost his money on the boat. And when he came over, so he had no money. People made a collection for him.
Was he, so he came over by himself. Did he already have family over here?
Yes, yes, I think, I don't know who was already here. Maybe his sister, who was older. It had to be his sister. It had to be his sister, because I think his brother came over later. And he came over, and of course he had family.
Do you remember the names of the sister and the brother?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
My aunt, his sister, was Elsie Goldstein. She married a man named Goldstein. And what was the other one you asked?
The brother.
The brother, oh yeah. The brother was my Uncle Jaime, which incidentally I found out after I moved to California. I don't know if I told you this, that he lived in San Diego, so fortunately I knew him a little bit as a child. And then of course I moved around, and he went out to Los Angeles, and I knew I had an uncle in Los Angeles, but I didn't really know him. I just remembered him. And so I called him up, and I did have an opportunity to see him a few times before he died. But so he changed his name. Jaime, I guess, he called himself Charles. Charles could be Jaime in Yiddish. Hacker. He took his mother's, so my father's mother's name was Hacker. And my Uncle Jaime, all of a sudden, wasn't Jaime Schechter, he was Charles Hacker. And Aunt Millie did meet some of the cousins, the children of Elsie Goldstein. Some of them were in Florida. I remember them vaguely from a wedding years ago, but I think most of them are gone now, except this one cousin in New York who told Millie where my father came from. She was Elsie's daughter.
Okay, do you remember the names of your father's parents? Did they stay in the old country? Or
Yeah, they never came over. My grandfathers, I never met my grandfather or grandmother. My grandfather's name was Jacob, and my grandmother's name, I think, was either Gussie or Gertrude, which could have been the same. Gussie might have been the Yiddish word. I don't know. It was either Gussie or Gertrude. And I think the same cousin in New York told me once many years ago that the grandfather did come over to the United States to visit in New York, but he didn't like it, and he went back. So I never met them, and they never lived here.
So he stayed in Eastern Europe his whole life?
Yeah.
Okay. And were there other children who stayed as well?
On my father's side, no. Yes, my father had a sister, another sister. And unfortunately, they got caught in with the war, but they didn't go to concentration camps. I don't know just what. They survived somehow. Maybe some of the family died. I know there was a young boy years ago who was my age when I was around 15. I don't know what became of him, but my father's sister survived because they were on the Russian side when the was divided. That's why they ended up in Ukraine, because when it was divided, they were in the part that went to Russia, and therefore they weren't exterminated with the Germans. And then after the war, they migrated to Israel.
That's your aunt who stayed in...
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I think there's a picture of her. I have one.
Okay.
That my Uncle Heine's wife gave me. My father's sister and her husband. I don't even know what their name was. I just have a picture. But her children are still living in Israel, and Aunt Millie has their names and addresses. I don't know.
Okay. What did your father's father do?
My father, well, my grandfather had a dry goods store. My grandmother, I think, sold dairy things like cheese or milk or cottage cheese or things like that. I guess she made the cottage cheese herself. She would have had to. And that's all I know.